from Alvaea Property Resolution. Alexa, thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm honored to be your first podcast that you're on, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be here.
Yes. So to dive right in, can you just tell us what a lien is and why is it so important to be removed from your property?
Yeah, so if ever you hear someone say that the title is dirty and that they didn't get a clean title, most of the time they're referring to a lien. So a lien is basically just this payment that you were supposed to pay someone else and they attached it to your property. And if you want to sell your property, when you sell it, you either have to be able to pay them part of that lien or all of that lien, or you have to get it negotiated, you have to get it taken off. But title companies, usually will not let you sell a house if you have more liens on it than what you can actually sell it for, because you're selling it with a dirty title. So you can get them from the IRS, you can get them from the mechanic car shop down the street, you can have HVAC guy come in here, do some work. If you never pay him, he can attach what he was owed onto your house. And it's basically going to be there forever until you do something about it.
And can you kind of dive into how do you guys go about actually getting that removed?
Yeah, so it's actually a really simple process. It just takes a little bit of flexibility and adaptability because you're talking to so many different lien holders. You could be talking to a really nice gal from an admin office in a small shop, or you could be talking to a huge law firm, or you could be trying to talk to like the federal government. It really depends on who you're talking to. But really, it's just contacting them saying, hey, I know that you have this lien up against this house. Let's say this house is $100,000 that we can sell it for. That's the best that we can get. We've got a lien on here for $180,000. There's no way that we're going to be able to pay you back $180,000. Can you work with us? And a lot of times they understand this, because what will happen if they say no is that it basically just goes into foreclosure, and the person who has the first lien, that person is going to then just get the house, and then it's going to be their problem. So a lot of these lien holders don't want to actually go through foreclosure. They don't want to deal with the house because they have to fix it up. They'll have to sell it. Hopefully they sell it for enough money to get their lien payment back. So a lot of times it will just kind of sit. So you can usually go in and say, hey, we're going to get this sold and you're going to get some money, but you're not going to get the full amount, and we're really sorry, but like this is the best we can do, type of a thing. You obviously say it a little bit more strategic than that. And then it's just finding that magic number. You usually do some type of negotiation where you're like, we'll get it for this. And they're like, absolutely not. That's not enough. And then we start going back and forth until we find that happy number that everybody agrees on. So there's 3 different ways that you can get a lien off of a title. You can buy the lien, which means that the lien is yours. So if you can't sell the property for the full amount of this lien, then you kind of eat some money. But if you're able to sell the property for the full amount and get that lien paid off, then all of that money is yours. So that's a really cool investment strategy that a lot of people do, they don't really know about. But it's very dangerous because sometimes you are not able to sell it for the full amount. The house is insolvent, whatever it may be. And so you're kind of eating some money. The second way is to get it negotiated down, to settle it down. So they basically say, when you guys go to close, we'll take, instead of $150,000, we'll just take $60,000 from closing, and then title will send them the $60,000. Everything's cool. They release everything else, and it's all legally now satisfied. The third thing is they can release the lien. So that means that they still own the lien. They just released it from the actual property, from the title. So it's still floating out there. Someone's still got to pay it. Usually it's the owner, or in a lot of probate cases, it'll be the heirs. But the lien is no longer on the property. So in either of those instances, though, you are unlocking all of this equity. So if the lien is $150,000 and you sell it, you're trying to sell it for $100,000, and I buy it for $60,000, that means that we now have $40,000 worth of equity we can leverage, because I'm not going to be like, you still got to pay me the whole thing. You know, I'm trying to help you sell the house. And it's the same thing with the release. We've now released all that equity. It's the same thing with the settlement. We have this wiggle room now to where you can either find a buyer, you can find a lender, because a lot of lenders won't lend money on homes with liens that are higher than the purchase price. It's just too high of a risk. They won't make money back. It just doesn't make sense. So you have all this extra wiggle room to be able to be creative with the way that you're going to move money to be able to sell the house now.
What I find so fascinating, and I think a lot of people don't realize this, is how just because you have a lien on your property or you have something that is wrong money wise doesn't mean that it has to be that way. Like you can fix it, right? Like you can call the people, you can say, hey, can I pay less? Like you're not stuck paying that exact amount that that person said you have to pay. You can say, hey, how else can I get around this without having to pay the full amount? And I think a lot of people get stuck in this mindset of like, oh, I have this bill or I have this thing and I have to pay this amount or I'm stuck in it. But that's usually not the case. Of what happens is you can call the person, you can not pay it, you can do things where it doesn't have to be paid in full, and there still might be less of a consequence than if you just didn't pay it or you took out that money and you paid it in full.
Yes, exactly. It's really interesting because there is always another option, another strategy, and it's honestly just limited to your imagination. If you can think about a different way for this to go, usually the blocks are just going to lay down in front of you. I had once heard the saying, take the mindset of what are the chances? What are the chances that you can let, or what was it? What are the chances that you can um, let me resolve this lien for 80%, or what are the chances I can buy it for this amount? You're going to get a no or you're going to get a yes, but you're never going to get a yes if you just don't ask. And so I think the hardest part with this entire industry is people think that everything is so finite, like you said. Here are the rules, there's no way around it, you just have to just grin and bear it and get through it. And in the world of real estate, the thing that I'm learning that's so fun about it is it's so creative. Everybody's just making stuff up as they go, and then they'll put it in a contract.
Yeah.
And then even the contract part, I remember the first time that I made a contract, I was sitting in my friend's living room and we were just watching, we were making this contract watching TV. And I was like, this is not like what I pictured it would be. I thought this would be like boardroom and
Yeah.
like everybody's like super serious, but it's not. It's just like everyday life, and you're just like, hey, this would be a good idea, or hey, let's try that. And then it's, if you actually get yourself to do the movements and to get into it, then you can have a lot of fun with this stuff, and you can get yourself out of a lot of crazy situations this way too.
I think that's probably the number one thing that people realize just about business is on the outside it looks very corporate-y, very suit and tie, which there are obviously scenarios that is the case, but most of it is like non-seriousness, phone calls, like texting your buddy for a deal, like networking events, like very unserious type of stuff. Once you kind of get into it, of like, okay, deals happen over text message or at like like over a phone call, not just walking into a boardroom with your attorney. It's a lot different than what it may be perceived on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. It really depends on the industry you're in, the stuff that you are working with, but most of the time I have learned every single person you are making a deal with or you have to ask a question to, they have some type of dream, they have some type of feelings, they have some type of family, they have some type of life of their own. They chose to wake up today, they had to brush their own teeth. Like, everybody is human. And so if you just really look at, hey, like, I'm trying to do this. What are you trying to do? Can we come to actually try and help each other out in this? When you get into that mindset, at least when I got into that mindset, business just opened up for me. It turned into, instead of how can I, like, take, and how can I get some money and how can I make these deals, to, hey, like, I have these skills and I know how to do this. Like, what are you doing? Maybe I can help you. And then, of course, the law of reciprocity, that's always going to come back around, whether it be from that person or from someone random that I wasn't counting on and they just pop into my life and make my life better. You never know how that's going to work. But as long as you, or for me, as soon as I got to the place where I started thinking, how can I just nurture as many relationships as possible? How can I just help as many people as possible? That's when things got honestly really easy and they got a lot more fun. Because when I was thinking about, oh, well, how can I give this to this person and how can I do that so I can get this, I went into perfectionist mode. It
Yeah.
wasn't fun anymore. It wasn't like I was doing it to connect with someone. It was like I was trying to prove myself. And it's like, to who? At that point in time, it's like to this abstract concept of perfection. So it's like, once I took a step back and I was like, oh my gosh, this is all just relationships. This is all just people having an idea and just rolling with it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, then they just pivot or go do something else. Like that's literally it. And then they'll just sign a contract and move some money around at that point in time.
Yeah. This is a great segue into how do you think spirituality and business mix?
Oh my gosh. I think business is spiritual. I think there's absolutely no separation between the two because your who you are, the gifts that you have, the skills that you have, those are all going to be given to the world in some way. The more that you know yourself, the more that you are concrete with who you are and that you are doing what you want to do because it makes you happy, because it truly gives you good feelings. You got that oxytocin, that serotonin, those good pro social hormones that are pumping through your body. When you've got all of that down, everything lays perfectly for you. It's one of those things where your business, I like to say, your business is your shadow. Your business is going to highlight everything that you're suppressing in yourself and in your life. If you are scared to show up, you're going to be having probably marketing problems. If you are scared to speak up for yourself, you're probably going to have problems with getting the prices that you want. Like everything is going to show up in your business. So if you are not looking at your business as a mirror for yourself and going, here's the bottlenecks, here's the things that I'm having troubles with. I'm having troubles with my network, or I'm having troubles with the money coming in, or I'm having troubles with impulsive expenses, or I'm having troubles with something. What in me is causing this? There's a root belief that I have that is making it to where I'm materializing this, I'm manifesting this. And so for me, I think business is it's one of the best tools that you can possibly use to get to know yourself and to level yourself up in any way that you can possibly imagine. And it's always going to, I always say it smacks me in the face. It's always going to wake me up as to what I'm ignoring in myself or what I've just been putting off or even what I just didn't even realize. And it's like, hey, this has been going on and I don't really like it. What am I doing? Like, why do I believe what I believe? Where did it come from? What do I need to believe the new thing to get what I want? And if this is going on, that means I'm focusing on it. So what am I not focusing on that I could be going towards? And then if I do love this, what am I doing and how do I get deeper into it? Like, how do I really expand my capacity to be able to hold more of this because I love it so much? That's how I always like to think of business as it's you and it's an extension of you. So the more spiritual that you are, the more that you connect with yourself and whatever higher power you have, whether it be the universe, whether it be God, whether it be whoever, then you are going to be able to do things on like a phenomenon type of a scale. Like one of those things where it's like, how does everything work out for that person? How are they hitting these levels? How are they doing these things? And it's like, because all I'm doing is focusing on what's going on the inside, because I know what's going on the inside is creating everything I'm experiencing on the outside.
One of the greatest things I've ever heard is That people get into business to build a business, but then they learn quickly that they're actually building themselves.
Yeah. Yep. And if they choose not to build themselves, the business is going to just either take over their life or it's going to run into the ground. I did that with one of my first businesses. I had a salon and I was microblading eyebrows. I was tattooing eyebrows, and I wasn't spiritual whatsoever at this point in time. At this point in time, I was trying to control my life by controlling my reality. I thought that if I can make people and make things act and happen the way that I wanted to, then I would be happy. And I had it totally backwards. And that business lasted like 2 years. It was a big, devastating thing, but I learned so much from it. And yeah, you're absolutely right.
So, what is one thing that you are currently working on for yourself?
That is a really good question. Right now, what I have been working on for myself is nurturing network relationships and expanding my capacity to get comfortable having amazing, actual, good, supportive relationships. For the first part of my entrepreneurial journey, I just thought I had to do it alone. I thought people didn't understand me. I'm different. I'm special, which I am. But I thought that I had to just do everything on my own. And when you have that mindset, you get lonely. You get lonely and everything moves so slowly. So this year I have been expanding into getting into different network groups. I found QLC that just fell in my lap, and I've absolutely adored it and everything that's come out of it. And I've definitely had to sit and look at myself in the mirror a lot of times with not just QLC, but just other stuff that's been happening, and just go, this is good. Like this makes me happy. So are we gonna roll with it? Like, are we gonna dive deeper into it? Like, I feel comfortable. I feel supported. I feel like people see my vision and that I don't feel crazy. Like, are we gonna make that our new normal, or are we gonna go back to, no, that's too good. Let me go somewhere else.
That's beautiful. I think a lot of people, especially when it comes to doing things that they're uncomfortable with, um, it's difficult, right? Like when you step into a room and you don't know anyone, and it's very scary, or you don't know how to do a skill and you're learning from someone else. So I think consistently putting yourself in those situations, but you also touched on the fact of letting go. I I really want you to talk about how do you how do you run a business and plan while also still like letting the universe guide you and like actually let go but still have concrete plans.
Yeah, that has been a struggle to really balance. That's something that I've had to do a lot of reflecting on. And I still feel like I'm honing in on it. I'm not quite there yet. I'm way further than I used to be. But the thing that has really moved the needle for me with being able to have a plan, yet still be flexible enough to have your creative power within that plan, is I had to understand how I work and start using that instead of start trying to change me into someone else. So for the longest time, I would try the really strict routines, waking up at 6, going to bed at, that don't work for me. I would try task lists and I would try all these different things, and I was so frustrated with myself because I was like, why I'm trying, like I'm putting in all this energy and it's not working for me. And so then comes the feelings of shame, and so I was like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to do what makes me feel good, what makes me feel powerful. And that in itself was the challenge, because I had to think about the times that I truly felt myself, and I truly felt aligned, and I truly felt like this is me. I have no doubts in who I am. I have no fears and that things are not going to work out. And I had to think about, what was I doing during those times when I did feel that way? And who was I talking to? What was I talking about? Where was the environment at? What was I thinking? Like, what was my intentions? And I really started to have to dig deep into what were the triggers for me to get into the state of being aligned and grounded. So I first had to get into that, and then I had to start growing comfortable being in that space. I say one of the I honestly, I feel like one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people have after I coached for 10 years in the fitness industry, I was basically people's therapist for the longest time. One of the things that I think a lot of us have struggled to understand and to allow ourselves to do is to be good for very long periods of time. Like, we'll go out and we'll be really good, and then we'll come home and then we'll be like, oh, okay, time to like go into, subconscious, like put on the TV and distract myself mode. Or so it's like, how can I allow myself to be good, great, feeling like I absolutely love life for like an entire day, a few days, like a week, that in itself was the whole challenge. So once I really focused on that, and so notice that had nothing to do with business. Once I focused on that, then I brought that into my business. And I said, okay, what are the routines that make me, now that I know what feeling good feels like, what are the routines that make me feel good? Let's put those into my calendar. What are the goals? What are the big outcomes when I think about them that I get gassed up? Like, I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Let's put those onto my calendar. And then I started looking at outcomes, and then I would put the outcomes. I'm very simple in that I like to think like I'm a part of nature. I'm not a computer. So I'm not supposed to be doing a million things a day. I'm supposed to be doing like a couple main big movement types of things a day. So in my calendar, there's like tiny little space each day, and I write, if I can fit it in there, then I'll do it. But if I can't fit it, then there's too much that I'm trying to do that day. So I keep it very, very simple. But those things that I have, they're not tiny little tasks anymore. It's an outcome. Get this approved, get this deal signed, and it's like something that has a lot of energy behind it, but it looks way smaller to me because it's just like this like tiny little thing on my agenda. So now that I have an agenda full of things that I know make me feel good, then with the business, I love branding. I'm so obsessed with writing out the brand guidelines and the personality guidelines and the business values and mission. And like, I could brand a million businesses for a dream job. That would be great, but you have to run the business at some point in time. So I had to go through and go, here's the missions. Here's what I have. Here's the values that I have. This is how I'm going to act and be aligned within my business. Every decision that I make has to be centered around these values. These are the main outcomes that I'm going to get from this business, no matter what I do in any type of business operation system that I have. I had to make those strict guidelines and then just keep those like I look at them every day and I go, okay, when I'm making my agenda, does it also match this? So it honestly, like, finding that balance to me was going deep within to get to the point where it's like, this is what I would want to feel when I'm running my business. I don't want to feel like I did in my other businesses where I'm always broke, where I feel like I'm lonely and not supported, where I feel like I'm not making movement, even though I am hitting all of these strides. Feeling good, figuring out what actually works for me, what I do naturally, utilizing my own systems, then creating that to where I have a good routine, and then having the structure of the ultimate values and the goals that my business has, and then just kind of smushing those all together.
What is super fascinating, and I think we see this a lot in the hustle culture, the grind culture, is the fact that you didn't follow a strict routine. You didn't say, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. every day, I'm going to go to bed at 9 p.m. every day. I think a lot of the hustle culture, especially nowadays, I'm not going to name drop people, but we know the huge influencers and the people that push that. I think it's very toxic because yes, it will get you results on the material world, but internally you're going to be very dissatisfied and very unfulfilled. So I find it very, very, very fascinating that you were able to to tell yourself that, hey, we're not going to fall into the hustle culture, and we can still become very wealthy and very successful by doing it in a way that actually finds inner fulfillment instead of just grinding my ass off. And then in 5 years, when I'm rich, I will figure out my inner fulfillment.
Thank you. That is like one of the best things I could have someone notice. Yes, I truly believe that your business is an extension of you and it is who you are. So for me, I was able to see all of these different ways people were living. 9 to 5, stay at home moms. Because I was lucky enough to have four parents. I had my dad, my mom, my stepmom, my stepdad. All completely different people with completely different beliefs and worlds they came from. One was a stay at home mom, one was a 9 to 5 mom. My dad was a truck driver who drove crazy hours from like 3 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. And then my stepdad, he's a business owner, he's an entrepreneur. And I got to see the things that they loved about their lives. I also got to see the things they really didn't like about their lives. And I took every little thing from there and I said, I'm going to make it my mission to be happy, healthy, and wealthy all at the same time. And that mission I did not realize was going to take me on an insane healing journey, first of all, but it's going to take me basically away from the entire crowd, and it's either you're sacrificing one thing or the other. You got a lot of money, but you don't have a very good relationship with yourself. Or you have a lot of great health, but you really don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of freedom. And it's like, how do you find that happy medium? And for me, it's like once I realized, oh, business is me being me, just putting some put like opening up a channel for me to get paid and me to pay people, like literally just setting up that 1 2 3 4 how many channels. And once I realized that, I was like, why in the world would I, per the law of attraction, right, and the domino effect, why in the world would I think that it makes sense to act this way, like be in this low frequency, and then expect once I got to a destination to just be all the way up in this frequency? Like it doesn't work that way. Like energy doesn't work that way. So I'm like, how do I get myself up here and then just grow a business in that frequency already? And that completely involved me really not thinking about the business but focusing on myself.
That's a great perspective. And I think the conscious entrepreneur is something that is becoming more and more apparent of like we're eating healthy, we are actually healthy, we're working out, we have good relationships, and we're fulfilling every bucket versus the grind culture where I mean you hear it all the time where it's like, oh, I'm growing my business and I'm going for funding, but I'm eating DoorDash. Or I'm
Mm-hmm.
working so much and I have to Uber Eats my food. And it's like you're telling me you don't have 5 minutes to put a hamburger on the grill and to cook healthy at home. And I think I'm very happy that this is a new wave that I'm seeing more and more of like, why can't we be healthy and happy and drive our business forward? We're like, hey, we're taking an hour to go eat healthy, or we're taking an hour to go meditate, or we're taking an hour to go work out, and we're growing our business and we're building relationships. And I'm very happy that this wave is here because I think the other wave was very toxic and is leading to a lot of people getting wealthy, but they're miserable when they get there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so exciting to see that people are starting to just question things.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you, society, whoever has been telling me that if I do this, I will get here. Well, I've been doing it and I'm not here yet. I'm actually over there. So like what gives? Like people are starting to really think for themselves and take control of their lives and their own decisions, and it's really exciting. One of the things that really shifted a lot of this for me too was getting into cycle syncing and understanding my body as like on that 28-day cycle that women have. It makes complete sense why the 9 to 5, why part-time, like multiple part-time training jobs, why none of that stuff worked for me, because it's like there's different parts of the month where I'm like a social butterfly, and you can sit here and you can tell me your entire life story, and I'll soak it up and I'll be here for you, and I've got all these ideas, and I'm just ready to bounce from one person to the next. And then there's other times in the month where I'm like, gosh, I can't even form a sentence. My brain is so foggy, And it's like, I don't want to be around anybody. And it's like, I don't want to consume anything. I just want to create. I want to sing. I want to write. I want to go make something. And it's like, when I started to realize that, I actually started implementing that into my business schedule too. And that has really helped me grow in an organic sense, because I've noticed for me, and I feel like once women get into understanding how their hormones actually impact the their clarity, like their mental clarity, then for me, I can say, hey, on this week, I'm not going to have a lot of networking events because I can barely stand 20 minutes with anybody. This is the week actually that I need to be creating. I need to be expressing and getting things out, so I can write down content ideas. I can write down goals for the next month, and then it's like I can reflect on everything that I did the last month and see where that's going to take me, and then I can just kind of shift my work calendar. Instead of doing the same thing every single week, that it's honestly like 28, it's monthly phases, where it's like this week, this phase we're focusing on this phase we're focusing on this. And that took a lot of work to get out of the habit of thinking that I'm not doing anything, because going into when I worked corporate, I was, you show up and you're like, you're going to do basically the same thing every week, the same exact thing. And it's like, when I was doing that, I was like, man, I haven't done this in a long time. And am I falling behind? And it's like, no, I'm working based on how my brain is supposed to work, based on how my body is supposed to work. And when I just like started trusting that process, and I'm like, I don't trust it yet, but science tells me that this is how this works. Then eventually I started seeing the results. And like I said, when you start focusing on um, when you start focusing on operating your business with how you function, and how you function as your best self, things just unfold for you perfectly at that point in time.
That's amazing, and I'm very happy that you touched on cycle syncing because I think a lot of women, especially in the states here, aren't even aware of what cycle they're on, what's going on with their body. So I think that is probably one of the most important things for women in general is to be in tune with that because that you can dictate what you're eating, how you're moving, your workouts. For my last question, can you just dive into what cycle syncing is as a whole and just from a human perspective, why do you think it's so important and like what can women do to, you know, make that a make that a priority in their life?
For me, cycle syncing is living like a woman. And we, I might get a lot of hate for this, but we've grown up in a man's society in the United States. Um, Starting from just the 9 to 5. It was created during the Industrial Revolution. It was when men mostly worked, women stayed home and took care of the family. And then women wanted to start getting out and getting into that stuff. And then we were competing to do things that men designed. And at that point in time, even with PMS, right? PMS, like when your body is in sync and you are eating the way that you are supposed to eat, like every single phase, you're supposed to eat just a little bit differently. You're supposed to move just a little bit differently. You're not supposed to do high intensity workouts 30 days a month. You're supposed to do them maybe even for 6 days a month. And then other days you're supposed to only walk. Other days you can go weightlift. Like when you really start to understand that your body is this complex, incredible machine, and you are this energetic being that has been placed into this complex machine. It's your responsibility to nurture it the way that it's supposed to be nurtured. And cycle syncing is women understanding how a woman's body is supposed to be nurtured for optimal performance. We aren't supposed to do a lot of the things men do. Men aren't supposed to do a lot of things women do. We both bring that yin and yang. And I think it's respecting that difference that we have and not trying to be less like them, not trying to be more like them, but trying to just be more of us. Trying to be, for me personally, I am trying to be more of the best person that I can be, and who I am is a woman. So I'm like, I'm going to do the things that a woman is supposed to do. I'm not going to sleep on not sleep on. I'm not going to neglect my sleep and try and sleep from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. every day, because my cycle, with the way that my hormones change, there's going to be times where I need 13 hours of sleep a night, and there's going to be times where I need like 6. And it's not realistic for my body to try and do those routines. So cycle syncing is every category of your life. It's how you eat, it's how you move, it's how you create, it's how you think, it's how you give, it's how you socialize. It's every single thing has some type of method that you have to cycle sync it to. And the more that you understand your body, the more that you understand your hormones, the more that you understand introversion and extroversion. And that's not just being shy and a social person. It's when you're introverted, your energy is inward. And when you're extroverted, your energy is outward. And it's understanding that that changes and that fluctuates throughout the month with women. Whereas with men, they have a 24-hour cycle. So they have everything that a woman does in 28 days in 24 hours. So being able to do the same thing every day is a little bit easier for a man compared to a woman. When I trained for the last decade, I had so many women who would do diets and workout routines with their husbands, and the husband would just like do this whole glow up, this whole transformation, and she would gain weight. And she would not understand why. And I didn't understand why at that point, even. And I went through a bachelor's degree of kinesiology, applied exercise and health and psychology. I had multiple trainings over the body. None of them really focused on that for women. And so I was telling women, do this, do this. This is what everybody tells us to do. And it's stuff that like were designed more for men. So cycle syncing for me is not necessarily trying to be more of something. It's respecting my body and it's respecting how I function. And the more that I can respect that, the more I've noticed that things are just, you have to do things so differently. You have to own, like, hey, this is what my body needs. And if you want me to be a happy, healthy person, and you want me to come here and be in a good mood, and you want me to be able to be your rock and be your support system and be this person that you like to be around, either respect it or get out, basically.
That's beautiful, and I'm very happy that you touched on that, because I think it's a very important topic that, like you said, is very rarely talked about. Um, those are the questions I have for you. I mean, we could sit here for the next 3 hours and probably talk about that. I find it super fascinating. But how can people find you, and what is one thing you want to leave people with?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So people can find me on, how do I want people to find me? Okay, so you could go to alvaeapropertyresolution.com. If you need a lien removed, then I got you. You can go there. If you want to find me and just get to know me, then Alexa_Overton, that's my Instagram account. And the thing that I want to leave people with is treat yourself the way that you want to be treated. You treat others the way that you treat yourself. Others are a mirror of you and will treat you the way that you treat yourself. So ultimately, just treat yourself so beautifully well that it's all just going to be good for everybody.
Beautifully said. Well, Alexa, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a great conversation. Like I mentioned, we probably could talk for the next 3 hours. So I appreciate it. And if you want to stay in here after, we can talk after. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me so much, Easton. You've been such an inspiration in the time that I've gotten to know you, and I am just honored to be here and be a part of your mission.
Yes. Thank you for the kind words.